Hello and welcome to Frost Over the World. Later in the programme, I look forward to the Russian presidential elections with expelled dissident Vladimir Bukovsky. We'll discuss next week's Democratic primaries in the USA with one of the candidates. I'll be talking to the Secretary General of President Musharraf's party in Pakistan, plus a conversation with that renowned Hollywood director, Rob Reiner. But first, Kenya. After weeks of deadlock, Kofi Annan yesterday announced an agreement between Kenya's rival parties. President Kibaki keeps his title, but will now have to share power with his rival, Raila Odinga, now instated as Prime Minister, with executive powers. Half of the cabinet seats will go to Mr. Kibaki's supporters, half to Mr. Odinga's. But after weeks of violence, mass movements, can this uneasy alliance hold? I'm joined now by Mr. Odinga himself, and last time we did an interview, I referred to you as Raila. Now I shall refer to you as your full name, Prime Minister. Do you think this...
Designate.
Do you think this alliance is really going to work? Obviously you've entered into it, so you do, I guess.
Sure, David, there's no reason why this alliance cannot work. We have worked with Mr. Kibaki in the past, of course in different capacities. But if Nelson Mandela could work with Mr. de Klerk, there is no reason why Raila Odinga cannot work with Mr. Mwai Kibaki.
Well, that's a good comparison. So you are optimistic today?
No, I'm fairly optimistic that we have managed to reach a settlement. It may not be very comfortable to some of my supporters, but I think that in this kind of situation, a compromise is called for. And I think that what we have done is for the good of our country, Kenya.
And in fact, we've had reports here of some, at least, of your supporters are celebrating in the streets, but others, as you say, may find it difficult.
Right. There were celebrations all over the country, but also I've received phone calls from those who think that this was a raw deal, that we should not have gone for half the loaf. We should have stayed away if we didn't get the full bread. But I say that we have not gone for half the loaf. We've done this so that we can be able to carry out the reforms that this country so badly need.
And you, as Prime Minister with executive powers, and the President, what happens if there's an issue on which the two of you disagree? Who wins?
You see, this is a coalition. This is the most important thing. It is not about the two individuals. And in a coalition, there's always need for constant consultations on issues so that a consensus is arrived at. So I think that there will be very few situations where we will not have a consensus, because we have quite a number of people with whom we are going to be working together.
So that you think you can reach a consensus on something you disagree with President Kibaki on, with the aid of the Commission, with the aid of the other members, yes?
Yes, exactly. This is what I think. So I think that in these kind of situations, one would always have to yield ground. So I do not see that there's a likelihood of us reaching a situation where we cannot reach some consensus on contentious issues.
We hear that the figure of homeless people as a result of the rioting and so on that followed the election and the disputes about the election, that 600,000 people are homeless in Kenya. How are you going to deal with that, Prime Minister?
Of course, this is a very challenging situation. It has never been like this before in our country, that you have got so many people internally displaced. But apart from that, there are also people who have been orphaned. There are those who have been widowed. There are those who have lost their jobs and those who have lost their properties. So the reconstruction phase is going to be challenging. We need to begin as quickly as possible the process of reconstruction and reconciliation. In this regard, we are going to require also a lot of international support, because I don't think that we do have adequate resources on our own to deal with this kind of situation. But I do not see this task as something for which we are not equal. I think we are equal to this task. With the determination and dedication, we will be able to resettle most of all these people who have been displaced.
And the people who died, the 1,500 people estimated to have died, do you think that the country can get over this, can conquer the hatreds and so on in a long period or in a short period? So many people have lost their lives and, as you said, lost their homes. How soon can Kenya recover emotionally as well as financially?
You see, the violence that has been witnessed over the last 2 months has, of course, opened up some very fresh wounds. And it has left the country fairly divided and polarized along ethnic lines. There is need for us to reconcile the society. And this is going to require that we hold regional meetings with leaders from various ethnic communities in order to cultivate the sense of nationhood, the spirit of brotherhood, so that people can begin to respect and tolerate each other. It's not something that is going to be like a quick fix job. It is a long-term job, but with the goodwill, I think we will be able to achieve it. We must deal with this issue of ethnic discrimination so that we can reduce its influence in our politics. We must have a formula that will ensure that there is equity in the distribution of resources in our country. The dispute over the presidential elections can be seen to have just been the trigger for all these other grievances. Things like land dispute have been with us for quite some time here. So we need a comprehensive land reform which will make land as a factor of production and wealth creation accessible and available to those who want to use it for those purposes.
One of the things that this is an important point in terms of the finances of Kenya is that, I mean, in terms of tourism, which some people say is running at 10% of what it was before the violence, you've got to have a situation where you can reassure people to come back on holiday to Kenya. I did it this year and it was a wonderful experience. But at the moment, of course, people would be concerned.
Certainly, the state of insecurity that we have witnessed in the past 2 months has, of course, scared away many tourists. And there have also been travel adversaries from several countries where tourists come from. So this has kept away a number of tourists. This, unfortunately, is also the highest peak period for tourism. Around this time, most hotels register 80 to 90% occupancy. Unfortunately, in a number of areas, particularly in the coastal area, which is really the biggest tourist destination, some hotels are registering as low as 5% occupancy. So a lot of jobs have been lost. Many hotels have closed down. We will need to begin immediately the process of reassurance, the reestablishment of security in our country, so that people can again have confidence in Kenya as a tourist destination. A number of airlines have actually cut the number of flights into Nairobi and Mombasa. But I think that we can be able to gain the ground lost within the next 2 to 3 months.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Raila. Prime Minister, thank you very much for being with us. I think everybody is hoping that this new coalition brings peace and prosperity to Kenya. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, David. I'm always happy to talk to you and in Al Jazeera. Thank you very much.
I think everybody will be wishing that new regime well, won't they? In a moment, we'll hear from one of the Democratic candidates for the US presidency. No, not him either, not her either, the other one. Join me in a moment.